RotoGrinders. I did the special one since we've actually got basketball slates. Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka blenderhd, blenderhd. If you want to follow me on Twitter, and this is the show where we would normally go over yesterday's slate, which doesn't exist, and then talk a little bit about today's slate, which kind of exists. It's a two-game slate. There's no one on the injury report, I don't think. I think we got some probables. I think we may be fine today. We may actually have a slate where everything that's in it right now that's exactly what's going to happen. But I mean, sometimes I've said that on short slates, and then it's Luka's out, Westbrook's out, and everything under haywire. It's been the All-Star break. Who needs to sit for load management anymore? I don't know, but maybe it happens. Someone gets a headache. Who knows? Paul George got dizzy because he drank too much caffeine or something. Who knows if that's true? But you never know what's going to happen. But I'm always here every day answering your strategy questions, no matter what. Right? We've been having fun. We've been having fun with Eli behind the scenes. He's been producing the show for the past couple of days. So give him a thumbs up for that. Don't do it for the apple juice. Who cares about the apple juice today? Give it for Eli for doing a good job behind the scenes, producing the show. You can't even tell. You think it's Devin. It's not. It's Eli, right? Okay, so is that an insult to Devin? Like, how easy of a job is it going to be? Can the guy that has the Guinness World Record for clapping is able to produce this show? That's what it is. Maybe we'll clap for you, right? If you want to hear some of his clapping, you can go on YouTube or whatever and find it. So hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button if you're new here, hit the notification bell to know when we go live. And we have a Grinders live show tonight, or crunch time, or something going on tonight before the slate. But the past couple of days has been fun with the YouTube chat people, the loyal fans of the YouTube chat: Daniel Hutchings, Matt Me, your card fan, Angel Palmer, DJ Cicero, of course, Mr. Meatplow, Max Coach 1, Sam Deal, John Johnson, Stephen Martin, C. Brisk, Zach Hobbs. We're all here for this wonderful two-game slate, I guess, right? Is this the halfway point of the season? The All-Star break is kind of the halfway point, right? We're going to get to the point a month from now. Then we get into the tanking teams, right? We already have COVID, which is blowing. Games are being canceled. Guys are sitting. Who knows? Contact tracing. And then when you get to the last month of the season, where the teams that are completely out of it, you're not going to know who the hell's going to play for them, right? They're going to be bringing up guys from the G League. The two guys, who knows? They just sit today. Who knows? So that on top of it. But by the time that happens, we'll have baseball back. So we'll talk more about MLB than deal with the haywire. What's the 11 o'clock show during the last couple of weeks of NBA season? What's the point? It's like a lot of times 6:45 at night, there's no point, right? Because half the late games, you don't even know what's going to happen. So NBA DFS it's going to turn even into more of a shit show than it's been. Okay, that's what's going to end up happening. But we do got a two-game slate today, which, I mean, it is what it is, right? The main thing on a two-game slate, you have to know, if you're playing large field GPPs, is uniqueness, right? Don't be duped, right, if you can, or be duped less, because it's you don't have many options, right? I think that the chalk is going to be some type of Wizards Mavs combination, because all those Spurs guys are available now, right? Or most of them are. Like, I think Aldridge is back, and I think Vassal's available, and Derek White is back. So, like, a lot of these Spurs guys were priced up for when, guys were out. I mean, Keldon Johnson's, I guess, a little bit cheap, depending on how many minutes he's going to come back into after the All-Star break. But, like, DeRozan and Murray, I mean, they're a little bit overpriced. I've got 8,500 with Derek White back. Yeah, maybe that's a way to get different, right? He could still put up 55 points, right, or something. They could be a blowout in the other game, because that's the way you should strategize it. You go, okay, one of the two games blows out, and I just stack the other game or something. So I pick one of the bench guys from the blowout game. Okay, you could do it that way. You could build a lineup that way. You could, because I mean, like, let's say the Washington Memphis game, like, let's say Memphis blows out Washington, so that means Westbrook, Beal, those guys may not make value, and then taking a DeRozan or a Murray, they get enough raw points. It's not like Murray needs to put up 55 points. If Westbrook only puts up 40, then you're good. Beal puts up 38, If Memphis blows them out or something, you have Joe Val in there with 45 points. I think you're fine. So you have to think in those terms. It's only 2 games. So you don't need 7 to 8x out of all these guys. You don't need it. You're probably not going to need it. Just finding a way to get different. That's the more important fact. In large field GPPs. Obviously, in small field GPPs, you still have to get different, but just not to some absurd extent. You don't have to worry about duplication as much. But I'm here to answer all your YouTube questions. That's what today is. There's nothing to review from yesterday. So typically half the show is that. Reviewing stuff from yesterday. 10, 15, 20 minutes. Well, that's gone. Okay? And then we got today's slate. It's only 2 games. Right? And we're not even waiting on news. So how much can we talk about that? So ask your questions. I answer it. It's very straightforward here on today's show. If you're listening to the podcast, you're not showing up live. Obviously, rate and review on iTunes. You could always listen to the show later. You can watch it later on YouTube as well. But if you have a question, you can feel free to come on in, 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern, ask your strategy questions. Most of them are smart questions on this show. Most of them, right? There aren't any stupid questions, only stupid people. So don't worry about it. But you could always email me questions also. Questions@theoryofdfs.com if you want. I answer all my email. For the most part. Sometimes it takes me a week. Sometimes I go then do it in bulk or whatever. So you'll get a response at some point. Okay. Chandler Cannon asks, in my Theory of DFS podcast, you said you played big GPPs, but now you say smaller GPPs. Wondering what your personal reasoning was for that. Well, I've explained it in the beginning of the season. Like the biggest edge is in large field GPPs. That's where what casual players, Joe Schmoes on the couch, they're putting in $1 $10 lineup and $1 and a dream it, right? You look at the bottom 15 to 20% of lineups in those big GPPs, they're garbage. They're garbage lineups. They're garbage lineups either because they're just plain out garbage. I mean, just someone's rostering an injured player, that type of thing. Or they're playing 6 guys from the same team no way all 6 of them get there on a 10-game slate or something. Or they're building min cash type lineups. They're building cash lineups, like double up type lineups that really don't have much, if any, win equity. So that's where the edge is. But the problem is that those GPPs are just like so insanely top heavy that all the equity, all the positive EV, all the plus EV that you can get is in the top spots. So like coming in 80th it is not a long-term winning strategy. You have to get a top 5, top 10, top 5, top 1. Like you need to hit that at some point in the year in order to be profitable. But obviously with variance, that the swings to do that is going to be ridiculous. You go 8 months, 8 months losing down, and then bank 100,000. Do you want to have to rely on that? Right? That's you'll get the highest return. If you're a good player in large field GPPs, you'll get the highest rate of return by doing that. But the sample size, I mean, you go a year, you could have a year losing, and then have the next year you win twice. So like the stress of like, going on a $30,000, $40,000 downswing just to make 60,000 at the end of the year. Well, your year is dependent on like maybe 2 or 3 days a year. I mean, the whole year is dependent on 2 or 3 slates. About it, right? 5 slates. Sometimes I'm in 6th. Can I come into 3rd or what? Like that's what's going to make or break your entire year. Or you could play smaller field GPPs. Yes, you don't have the 100K to first, but you have the 5K to first, the 10K to first, that type of thing, 20K sometimes. Smaller field, instead of 50, 70, 80,000 entries, you're playing against 1,000 entries, 1,500 entries, sometimes 600 entries. You don't have that, obviously better competition in those contests. You're going to get less, crappy lineups, but the swings may be much lower. But all I care about is what happens at the end of the year. What happens for that 1 year period, and which in and of itself is arbitrary. So at the end of the year, my personal goal is to make between $50,000 and $75,000 on average per year that I play DFS. So if I can make $50,000, do I make it all on one shot playing large field GPPs, or can I make that steady More so. I mean, there's going to be dips. There's going to be gaps and dips and valleys. But can I make it less so I don't have to rely on, playing 80 entries into the large field contest and, $800 turns into $400. $800 turns into $600. $800 turns into $750, and 800 turns into $930. 800, and they're just constantly doing that, and you're bleeding money away. And then bink, and then 800 turns into 15,000. 800 turns into 100,000. Hopefully, do I want to do that at the end of the year? How much money do I have then? Or do I make it more consistent? And if I end up with the same amount of money at the end, why wouldn't I rather just do it that way? Who cares about the large field GPPs? Even though there is more edge in there, to realize that edge is it's gonna be a journey. It's been successful for me for 5 years. But going forward, I'm like, well, what happens if I just didn't play large field GPPs and I played small field GPPs and more cash volume? Will I get to that point? Because I could show you right now. I brought it up. This is my Roto Tracker graph for the first 2 months of this year. Okay, so I imported March 1st. So this is through February 28th or whatever, right? Okay, so I didn't get the past. I mean, there's barely been a contest the past couple of days, so it doesn't matter. So I'm at $28,345, right? We already have the cash bankroll tracker right here, where I'm up 18,589. Okay. So I'm tracking the cash here. I mean, it's in Roto Tracker, but in order for public view, you could get this tracker at tracker.theoryofdfs.com. This is public. So you could look at this all you want, anytime you want. I update this every day that I obviously play contests. And this is just for cash games. But overall, it's like yes, in basketball, I had a 5K finish, I had an 8K finish, and in soccer, I had a 10K finish over this past 2-month period. But like right now, I'm at 28,000 or so over 2 months. It's been a good 2 months. Okay, so then can I expect $14,000 a month? No. But still, if my goal at the end of the year, which we're going to still have the baseball season, we're going to still have the next football season and everything in between, can I get $50,000 to $75,000? So based on just the first 2 months, like it seems like instead of wild swings and trying to bank large field GPPs, this may be more sustainable. This may be less stress. Because looking at my all-time, right here, my all-time is $394,775. But you see, look at this dip. I mean, I had to dig myself out of a nearly $35,000 downswing. And then now I'm back. I mean, it's like waiting for the stock market to recover, right? I'm still in the same index funds, and I gotta wait a year for that sucker to come back. But that's because when you're playing large field GPPs, you're going to get these types of graphs where you're going to get low, bleed, bink, right? I got 2 binks in short succession back in 2018. But look, down, then it comes bink, and then bink, and then bink, and then down, and then bink, down, and then bink, and it progressively goes up like that. But look at these periods of like just nothing. Like it's just up and down, waiting, just trying to survive for the first place finishes or the top 5 finishes. Like you could go a long time. But playing the small field contest, the time in between may not be as much, but obviously the return isn't going to be as much. So that's why I switched over. I said, let me try this. Doesn't mean I'm going to completely not play large field GPPs anymore. I may do some more in baseball than in basketball. But let me see that. My goal, I mean, I think it's a reasonable way to think about it, is that how do I make the most amount of money for the least amount of time and least amount of stress, least lowest variance, least amount of swings. Maybe my expected return playing large field GPPs over the course, on average in a year, could be $90,000, but it will be swings of like ridiculousness and a lot of like stagnation for 3 months of just like slowly bleeding away. Or I could do it this way and make 70,000. So yeah, I'm giving up some expectation, but like I'm not sweating a $30,000 downswing because it's likely not going to happen. right? My downswings are going to be lower. They're going to be shorter. My upswings are going to be shorter also. But as long as I'm trending forward and going up, that's all that matters. Can I make it in cash games and small field GPPs and end up at the year with the same amount of money? To me, that's prudent. Now, if your goal is to make $500,000 or something, yeah, then you're gonna have to take on a lot more risk. I'm a nit, okay? I mean, I play in a way. I mean, it's not like I'm a nit when it comes to building lineups for GPPs. I have no problem taking here's $100 lineup and that's my strategy. It's risky, and either I win first or I win last. That's not what being a nit is. That's how you should be playing GPPs. But being a nit with your bankroll, being in it with how much you risk in order to get that return. And I probably have left money on the table. This graph probably if I was much more aggressive, I could be easily leaving $500,000 on the table. But of course, risking that, that the expectation could have been rerun bad and now you're broke. So you have to weigh those two things together. So that's my attitude. I'm not, you know me. If you watch my stuff, if you listen to my content, you get the course, theoryofdfs.com, how to think like a professional DFS player. Theoryofdfs.com. Like I talk in terms of like, this is realistic returns, not how to make $1 million playing DFS, how to be profitable. I think that should be the goal. Not many people are profitable playing DFS lifetime, long term. Very small percentage. How to be one of those people, whether it be $1,000 you make over the course of a year, or $5,000, or $50,000, or way more than that. To me, that should be your first goal. And if it involves being frugal, doing some of the boring stuff well, then that's what it is. It's not all fun and games. I consider this to be fun, but I mean, maybe I'm screwed up in the head. I like figuring out how could I get an extra 0.5% ROI here, and how do I get a little edge over there? Those types of things. Because at my volume, it makes a difference. If I'm playing $4,000 in a night, an extra 1% returns is $40. $40. Hey, that's get me an extra $40 a day, right? Give me an extra $40 a day for 300 days a year. That's $12,000. Give it to me. I'll take it. If all I need to do is, find the edges a little here, a little optimize there, and make sure my process and game selection and everything is good, and I get an extra $12,000 for doing it, I'm going to do it. Why wouldn't I? Oh, it's not fun doing it that way. Well, that's why I find it fun making an extra $12,000. That's just me. If you're on the same wavelength as me, we'll get along. But if you're like, I want to have fun and watch the games and, sweat something, and I'm not that person. I'm not even going to watch the 2 games tonight. I've no care in the world to watch basketball, right? But that's just me. But that's the reasoning behind it. But I think most people that watch my stuff are on the same page. They get it. They get it. That's what I teach. That's what I preach. That's what I walk the talk. I talk the walk. I eat my own dog food. I show everything transparently. This is what I do. Let's see. Joe Stroop asks, on a 2-game slate, would you have exposure to every player? It's always some weird guy who goes off at like 2% ownership. I mean, you could build good lineups. Who cares about the exposure? Build lineups that have a high enough projection and low enough ownership. They just happen to have Raul Neto in it, then so be it. Am I likely to play guys that are projected to play only like 6 minutes? Probably not. But they also project low. So I mean, like, like when a player is 3,000 and projected for 5 points, unlikely to be in a good lineup to begin with. There's no reason why you can't play, guys that are getting 20 minutes. 15 minutes, Tyus Jones, 3,100. He could end up in the winning lineup. Who knows? Care more about what the lineup looks like, not exposures. Exposures are just a byproduct of your diversification. They're not part of your strategy. Build a good lineup. Brian Tedeschi, can you show us in lineup HQ on how you would set your settings that would be optimal for cash games? Well, the settings for cash is here. I'll show you. You see these projections? These are the 4:59 a.m. projections. Are we going to get, is there any updates this morning? Did they wake up this morning yet? Any manual updates? Let's see. Oh, no, 4:59. Okay, I'll show you in lineup HQ how I make my cash lineup, okay? You want to look at my settings? My settings don't even matter, so it doesn't, whatever. It doesn't, set it to default. Who cares? For cash games, none of this matters, right? So here's my settings. So who cares? Reset them all, right? Here's my player groups, nothing. Right, I got nothing. It's just nothing. Here's my cash lineup. There you go. You see it. There you go. Westbrook, Beal, Advija, Clark, Wagner, Doncic, Richardson, Lopez. It's the highest median lineup based on our projections. Currently, as of whatever, 5 in the morning. It'll change. They'll make the adjustments. There you go. All I'm looking for is the highest median lineup. There you go. Done. Give it to me. Cash game's over. We're done. That's it. Done. I know it sounds stupid, but that's what it is. Your goal is to make the highest median lineup. To finish 55th percentile in your contest. Double ups, head-to-heads, that type of stuff. There you go. Done. Now for GPPs, it depends on what lineups you want to make. Right? If I go in and just make 20 lineups with no default or whatever, I'm just going to get the top 20 optimals, right? 49K, whatever. I can set this even lower. Who cares? This is just going to get me the 20 top opt. You're going to see the lineup that was just there, right? Right? 257.60. Right there. And what's the next one? 257.26. 256.95. 256.68. You're getting tons of Memphis, Washington, based on our projections, and some Dallas. Not much Spurs. Right? I don't even know if you get any. Keldon Johnson, 2 lineups. Right? You get a bunch of this. Now, if you just play these 20 lineups, like these are probably not good large field GPP lineups. These are more like cash lineups. Now, in a 2-game slate, the negative correlation you're going to have to kind of don't care as much about because there's only so many choices. Can Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook both get there? Well, how many points do they need on a 2-game slate? You don't need them both to get 70 points. It's only 2 games. So you kind of have to throw some of the negative correlation stuff out the window a little. So you go here. It's like, okay, well, you could play these lineups, but I don't consider them to be good lineups because these are going to be heavily duplicated. If the projections are good, I mean, this is as of 5 in the morning. I mean, who knows what's going to look like when they make manual adjustments, our projections team. But this is if you only have like one unique player from each between lineups. Do you want to have that little diversification between your lineups? Who knows? That's up to you. But let's say you're like, okay, well, I don't want to play Westbrook and Beal together. Okay, let's say you don't want to. So you go into the groups and you say, I don't want to be able to build any lineups with Westbrook and Beal together. Maybe I don't want to build any lineups with Murray and DeRozan together. Right? Maybe we don't want 2 centers from the same team. We don't want Lopez and Wagner together or something like that. We don't want that together. We take a look and it's like a lot of lineups are going to be, we don't have ownership, but I'm saying a lot of lineups are going to be Luka plus Westbrook or Beal, like that type of lineup. And Joe Val probably at the center. So I'm visualizing what the popular lineups are looking like. Now, I could make it that I don't play like Luka and Westbrook together. That's a blunt way of saying I don't want my lineups to look like that. But let's say we set a little bit of diversification so we get 2 per. We don't touch anything else. We're going to do everything with exposures to get the lineups that we want. I'm using the we in quotations. So we already have some of that. Maybe we don't want to play Luka and Porzingis together. Maybe we don't do that. You could choose to if you want. I'm just giving some parameters. Porzingis. So basically, based on our projections, the Spurs guys are going to come in the lowest owned. So obviously for a large field GPP, I have to think in terms of I'm going to probably be over the field on Spurs. Right. So build 20 lineups like this. Let's see what happens. Right? We can still get 100%. We get 100% Luka. Okay. But he's probably going to be the most popular guy, right? In the small, well, he's point guard here, small forward on FanDuel now. So let's say I'm going to cut that down to 50%. I'm going to cut, we're still going to be playing Spurs, right? We're playing Spurs for leverage, possibly. Like that's one way to go. So let's say instead we'll cut Luka to 50%, but let's make it. We go to the Spurs. They don't project well. I mean, look at this. They don't project well. Murray, DeRozan, White, Keldon Johnson. That's probably you could play any of these other guys, but let's just take these four guys. Maybe we don't want to play White in that group either, right? We don't mind Keldon Johnson, but let's say in this player group that we have with DeRozan and Murray, maybe we don't want to play White. They kind of share the same backcourt. So we're only playing one of these guys. Keldon Johnson, we don't mind. Okay? Now, if we're going to play, a lot of people may play Luka lineups without Spurs in them. So maybe we want to force that. We want to force leverage by pairing Luka. So I take the conditional player, Luka, and I add those four Spurs players. DeRozan, Murray, White, and Keldon Johnson. And I put minimum 1, maximum 2. Now, we already have a group that says you can't play more than one of the 3D guys. So if there's going to be 2 in there, it's going to be one of these guys and then Keldon Johnson. So it's not going to be a DeRozan Murray lineup or DeRozan White lineup or a Murray White lineup, right? But in every Luka lineup, I'm putting a Spur in my lineup. Because a lot of the lineups, as of right now, I would think, are going to have Luka without any Spurs in them. But obviously, if Luka gets a ceiling, that means the game probably ended up being somewhat close, right? Close enough. Luka gets 60 points. Probably the Spurs made it competitive. So let's roster some Spurs. So now we're going to do this. Now we'll build 20 lineups now. Now we have no ownership here to compare it to. But we look here. Luka's in 50% of the lineups, just so we get a ton of Jonas Valanciunas. So now we have some different lineups. We have Clark and Valanciunas. Maybe we want to split him up. Right, but here we go. Luka plus Keldon. Luka plus Derek White. Luka plus Keldon. Derek White, Luka. We get a lot of at least one Spur in these Luka lineups. We're still getting a lot of Memphis. A lot of Memphis. Maybe we don't want to play Morant, Melton, and Brooks together. Maybe we don't want to play guys from this, and Winslow, maybe. So we do that. So let's say we go into player groups. And we say maybe we don't want to play Clark and Valanciunas together, maybe. Maybe we go in and we don't want to play Morant plus Melton plus Winslow. Like something like this. Plus Brooks, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if that matters. We play at most one of these guys. So now we can build 20 more lineups, right? Now we're starting to get away from that median, that 257. But these are still decent lineups. Now we're playing Hardaway, Luka, Richardson, Hart. Maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe we don't want to play Richardson and Hardaway together. They kind of come in and out for each other. I mean, they're all viable on a 2-game slate. Let's say we're doing Richardson and Hardaway. Maybe Brunson. We throw Brunson into that group as well. Or do we? Should we throw Brunson? Yeah, maybe. Okay, we throw that in. Let's take a look at the lineups. 255. Like now we're talking a little bit. Right? We get Brooks, Valanciunas. We're getting that one Spur in, but we're still not getting that many Spurs in our 20 build. We're getting a lot of Valanciunas because like center is like garbage, right? Who's at center today? I mean, just garbage. I mean, Porzingis, I guess, Clark, Hachimura. I mean, just poorly projected players outside of Joval. But that'll also make him popular. So maybe I want to cut down on that. So I'm just going to put on 50% there. I take a look at, so okay, we got a bunch of Keldon Johnson. So now that we're only getting 50% Jonas, I'm assuming other centers are going to start coming up. Wagner's going to come up, right? So maybe I cap him. So I don't get as much of him. I cap Rui. I cap Lopez. Just so that no one is like 100%. Just we have more diverse lineups. 50, Porzingis 50, Clark 50, whatever. Anyone else that's sender eligible here? No. Let's build 20 lineups again. Okay. I get a lot of Josh Richardson, Russell Westbrook, Beal Wagner. I don't mind that. Right? So where are the Spurs? We're still not getting that much Spurs. DeRozan's gone. He just said goodbye. So maybe we force some DeRozan in. And I also have to consider making the groups the opposite way. Of making, if DeRozan's in the lineup, make sure Luka or Richardson or Hardaway or someone from the Mavericks is on the other side. So I'm doing this. So maybe I go to DeRozan and I force him in, like at least 10 per 2 lineups? Let's force him into 20%. So out of 20 lineups, it's 4 lineups. So I'm forcing him in, right? I'm going to force Murray in, not lock him in. Force him into 20%. Make sure Derek White, just get all these Spurs like that. Maybe cap Richard, cap all these guys at 50%. Just for not saying you would. I mean, you could play all the Russell Westbrook you want. I just want to see I just want to see as many diverse lineups as possible. So you do that, build 20 lineups. Or 100 or whatever the number is. And we're getting Avija and Beal. So maybe, okay, we forgot to do that. Get rid of that. But maybe Beal will be half as owned as Westbrook. And maybe Beal outscores Westbrook. Maybe you do something like that. And you could always name these builds. You could pill out lineups if you want. You could also delete all the other builds that were there. Now we got a ton of Keldon Johnson, Derek White, Murray. Still got one lineup with Tyus Jones in it, just in case. You never know. Then I start looking through these lineups and go, okay, this is doable, right? We got that Spur there. We still got a lot of Adijva. How do you Denny? I just call him Denny. Derek White. Still got 4 Wizards. Maybe the Wizards are going to still be too popular. Maybe you want to do this. Maybe you want to go in and you go, there's too many lineups with 4 Wizards in it. Maybe there's too many lineups with 3 Wizards in it. It's your choice. How do you want to get different from the field? So maybe you go into build rules, go to players per team, and you go, don't want to play more than 2 Washington players. And I don't want to play more than 3 Memphis players or something like that. So you're forcing in more Spurs and Mavericks, right? Because that's how you're being different. Most people are going to be playing most of their roster spots being Washington, Memphis, and not as much Spurs, Mavericks. As of now, as of what I'm just looking at projection-wise. So if I did 2-2 max, that means obviously in an 8-spot lineup, that means at least 4 players needs to come from Spurs and Mavericks. So let's try it this way, right? Let's say, okay, I want to focus more on this game. And I'm just use the blunt tool of just no more than 2. I just build 20 lineups. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Right. Obviously, we're going to get a lot more Dorian Finney-Smith and Richardson. You get a lot more of those guys. Right? You're going to get less Robin Lopez and Rui and Denny. Right. You take a look. You have Beal Wagner on the Washington side. You have Brooks Valanciunas on the Memphis side. Then you got Luka, J. Rich, Kleber, and then Derek White opposite. Okay, what's wrong with this lineup? Let's go down to, lineup 9 here. You have 2 crappy Wizards together with Morant and Joval. But you get Keldon and DeMar together with Luka and Josh Richardson. What's wrong with this lineup for a large field GPP? Nothing. Nothing's wrong with this lineup. Getting different. Tyus Jones and Dylan Brooks with Dorian Finney-Smith, right? Focusing more on the other game, the less popular game as of now. And you're playing a chalk Luka, but at least you're playing him with what should be a lower-owned DeRozan. Same here. Lower-owned Keldon Johnson. Derek White. Derek White probably be a little bit owned. or decently enough owned for a 2-game slate. So this is I'm making lineups, people. This is what making lineups. It's a 2-game slate, so obviously you only have so much to work with. But this is how you like. I'm not setting my exposures based on I want 50% of this guy. No, I'm looking through lineups. What do these lineups look like? Which means I need to have a bunch of these guys. Oh, how do you have 50% Dorian Finney-Smith? Well, in order to make these type of lineups, I need to have 50% Dorian Finney-Smith. It's inevitable. But mathematically, if the projections are accurate, then that's what that's who should be fitting in there. We go to the DFS lineups, the Dorian Finney-Smith lineups, and go, well, he's 4,500 and he's projected for 21 points, median-wise. Who else are you going to play? He fits in there. There you go. See, this lineup I don't necessarily like as much. That's not that bad, I guess, right? I was just trying to think. It seemed like there were too many Mavericks in there, but it's fine. But to me, this is making lineups. Did I talk about like who's going to smash today? No, I have no idea. That's what the numbers are here for. I don't care. Just whatever the numbers say, the numbers are. That's it. How do I build lineups based on that? That are going to be different, yet still projected well. Because remember, the optimal lineup, right? We'll bring it up right here because you could do that in the sidebar, is 257.6. The 20 lineups that I made right now are 255.3, which is like just 2.3 points lower. And even the 20th lineup I made is 244.1. 244.1 is like healthily, like 13 points under. Like you get the large luck box field. Okay, start throwing this lineup in. 13 points on a 2-game slate. You're fine. Large field wise, small field wise, maybe you're looking more towards the upper end. You know, the 250 to 254 type of range. Obviously, you'll get owners. You'll be able to see the ownership projections at some point today. So now you have another figure to judge it against. How owned is this lineup going to be versus how projected it's going to be? It's the same I talk about every day. So you showed this is how I would build lineup. If I had a 20 set of lineups, this is exactly how I would go about building it. Exactly. I strategized. I came up with the strategy of these Spurs are going to be underowned because they don't project well. And it's a 2-game slate. So I think the Wizards-Memphis game, that's going to be the higher owned game. And Luka from the Mavericks. So why don't I take advantage of how do I play Luka? Well, let me play it with the Spurs and then screw the Wizards. Screw Morant. Screw Joe Val. How many lineups? Can I build good enough lineups like that? And I can. So I'm going to build lineups like that. Doesn't mean you can't play. You could play a game stack of the You could play the other way. Play the Grizzlies Wizards game as a stack. Play 7 guys from that game and then fade Luka and just play some scrub from. You could play a Spur. You could play, you could play Kleber, and that's the only guy that you have. And as long as Kleber gets 20 points, you're good. And then you fade Luka. Like you could do it that way. I could have just easily done the other way around and said, screw the Spurs, screw Luka. How many ways can I stack the Wizards Memphis game? And am I going to get enough of an ownership discount to do so versus the projection? Could have done it that way. My natural inclination was at a 14, it's a 4-team slate. And the Spurs are going to be the lowest owned out of the bunch. So maybe they get there. Let me do it that way. That's what you should be thinking about. Stephen Martin asks, Splendor, do FanDuel cash lineups generally hold well in quintuple ups, 1,000 entry field, even with payouts only in the top 20 percentile? Only asking because I remember you mentioned playing quintuples. I mean, if you're building a good enough lineup, sure, why not? You're trying to capture upside. You're not going to. You only have to cash in a quintuple up one out of 5 times to break even, right? 1 out of 4 times with the rake. I mean, I'm not putting them in. That's not a bulk of my volume. I play my one FanDuel cash lineup in mostly head-to-heads and 50-50s, but then some in triples, some in quints. So if it does score towards the top end of a double up, I'm not just doubling my money because I'm also in triple ups and quints. So I'm getting 3Xs and 5Xs up there also. But if I play $2,000 of volume on FanDuel for that one cash lineup, I'm not playing 500 of it in quintuple ups, right? I'm playing like 1,000 of it in head-to-heads, 800 to 1,000 in head-to-heads. I'm playing 5 to 600 in 50-50s, 200 in double ups, and then like the last 100 are the double ups and stuff. A single entry GPP, a $25 single entry GPP. So like 5% of the volume. I mean, that's why I show on my, well, that's my email. That's why I show. That's why I put the tilde there, because it's just an approximate. I try to get around 60% head-to-heads, 35% double ups, 50-50s, and 5% triple ups or above. So if I'm playing like today, if I play $3,800 worth of volume, like that'll be like $170 in like some upside type of contests. $170 out of 3,800. So like the other 3,600 is still in mostly head-to-heads, double up, stuff like that. But if I do score well, if that lineup does score well, at least I get some upside there. And I'm only putting only a portion of my volume towards it. I think that's perfectly fine. Going through the YouTube chat. Let's see, go through. I always have to scroll down and then scroll up to see all the old questions. Daniel Hutchins says, which is true, another benefit for playing smaller field GPPs for beginning players is the reduced variance means you get an idea of your relative ability much faster. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're playing against probably better players, but I mean, you get a sense, and you're not going to know that in a month anyway. Let's see. People are asking if I'm playing less tonight since it's only 2 games. Yeah, because the variance is going to be stupid. Am I going to play $3,800? Probably not. Probably $2,500. I don't even know if I'm going to play on Yahoo tonight. I didn't enter anything on Yahoo. I may just play FanDuel and Draftkings. Okay. People are talking poker, right? Because Alex is here. Alex, I got to get you on the Theory at DFS podcast some point soon. I'll DM you, whatever. I don't know why I have to say that live on a show, whatever. People talking about poker. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Going through. Max Koch asks, can you explain how the ceiling consistency tool relates to smash percentage and lineup HQ? For example, Tyus Jones consistently crushes in that tool. However, the smash percentage is 0. Yeah, the ceiling consistency tool is descriptive, not predictive. That's what one of the big things when you look at stats is knowing what's descriptive and what's predictive. A lot of stats that get thrown around in any sport are very descriptive. They describe the past, but they can't predict the future. So his ceiling consistency, his consistency in the past 40 games is X. Well, that doesn't show. Well, what happens if his minutes change today? What happens if a guy's out today? What's going to happen today? What does it matter what happened in the past 40 games? Well, his ceiling is 50 points. Yeah, when Morant's out and when everyone in the backcourt is out. Sure. Well, what does that matter if he's getting 15 minutes today? Doesn't matter. The projections that you're looking at in lineup HQ are all the variables for just today's game. Now, he does have a prior. He does. All these players do have rates and usages and everything from a prior that regress over time. But if you're taking a sample size from, it's like, in these 40 games, he did X. So what does that have to do with today? Who cares about the ceiling consistency of descriptive results? What are the variables that are at factor today? And then you simulate that out. And that's where you get the range of outcomes for today. You don't have to describe the past. The past is the past. Who cares about it? So that's the difference. So that's why, like I always say, even the correlation matrix for NBA. Like those are like, yeah, one guy's points is related to another guy's points. You're right. Okay, great. That's for the median. For like, okay, they're correlated by 0.08. It's like, okay. But that doesn't mean can they hit their ceilings together? No, that's not what that tool is telling you. The correlation matrix tool that we have, that's not going to tell you who can hit their ceiling at the same time. The better way of looking at that is to backload and backtest all those times and see which, when one player hit 7x, what other players hit 7x. But even then, you're going to get into sample size problems because you're going to have some games where two guys didn't play together or another guy was out or they only ran a 7-man rotation. So like even that is questionable. A lot of that is going to be noisy. But the correlation tool is just going to show you whose points are more. If you looked on that graph, from an our perspective, whose lines are closer to each other. But the winner GPP, like, okay, these two, when this guy gets 5x, this other guy gets 5x. So they're correlated to one another, right? When this guy gets 5.5x, this guy gets 5.5x. But when this guy gets 7x, the other guy gets 4x. So who cares that they're more correlated in that median range? When in GPPs, you care about, like, you need one of them to go for 10x or whatever, which means the other guy probably doesn't. Yet, when they both go for 5x, that very fairly frequently. So their correlation will be high, but their ceiling correlation will be very low. So you have to look at the context of when you look at all these tools and the stats. What is useful for DFS? When you're looking for positive and negative correlation, I'm looking for 80th percentile results. Two guys that are correlated at the 50th percentile, what does that get me in GPPs? Nothing. Great, they both don't have a flame emoji. Well, thanks. No, when one guy has a flame emoji, does the other guy have a flame emoji? That's the only thing I care about, and that tool is not going to tell you that. So that's the difference. People are talking about poker in the chat, so who cares? So we'll get out of here then, right? I showed some stuff. We actually did some stuff about today's 2-game slate. We built some lineups. Who knows what's going to happen? They're going to change the projections. Someone's going to be out. They're going to find Luka somewhere in a back alley somewhere. He can't play. Who knows what's going to happen, right? Even though it's a 2-game slate after the All-Star break, someone's going to sit for rest. And I'm going to wonder why, right? We're all going to wonder, why does this guy have to sit? He's been rested for a week. And or there's an ankle sprain, doubtful, something's going to happen. It's going to happen inevitably. I see, because you would think on any other slate, it would this is the slate where what we know right now is going to be what happens. But we say that and then it doesn't. Then the slate's thrown up into flux. COVID protocols, one of the games are canceled, right? The slate's over as it is. You never know with NBA DFS. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here every day, every weekday, not the weekends. I have to take some time off, answering your questions, going over some slates. We'll talk. We'll see what the exposures are tomorrow on for this, because that's what I could actually review a slate. And we're like 3 weeks away from MLB. Can we make it? Can we make it 3 weeks to MLB before I go insane with all the NBA news? Slate swap and everything. I want to be able to just at like 7:00 be done. Be like, okay, now I can just sit on the couch. Maybe I turn on a baseball game. Maybe I don't have to worry about like keeping up and swapping and everything until 10:00. I can't wait. But I'll be here guiding you the whole way through, answering your strategy questions, keeping the apple juice cold. Hit that thumbs up button. Give me the thumbs on your way out the door. We got Grinders Live / crunch time / something 7:30, 7:00. Maybe a free crunch time. It may be free today. I don't know. I didn't look at the schedule. There's something coming up later before lock for the NBA slate tonight. But I'll see you tomorrow. on another edition of the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders.com.